Myself, Bhaskar Nagendra. I'm the moderator for today's session. First of all, as a rule of thumb, so I want to share with you some guidelines for all the participants here. So use your chat box to interact with the fellow participants, and use your question and answer icon in the bottom if you have some questions for the speakers. And any question that you want to ask, if it is specific to some particular presenter, please specify their name so we can guide it to that particular speaker. And at any point of time, if you are disconnected from the webinar, you join back to the same link, or if you cannot do that, we have this session recorded and it is even live on YouTube. Before starting the session, let me give a brief introduction about who we are. So we, Asian Institute of Design, we are a higher education institute affiliated to Bangalore North University. We offer different undergraduate and professional diploma courses in art, gaming, animation, design, and emerging technologies. We have faculties who are industry professionals, educationalists, and entrepreneurs. And we have students across the globe who have credits of different blockbuster movies and games like Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, Jungle Book, Godzilla, and many more. If you want to know more about Asian Institute of Design, you can please log into www.asianinstituteofdesign.in, or you can get connected with us with our social media links. So about this aided learning, like Asian Institute of Design, we started this aided learning, keeping like the main intent of this aided learning is to connect the reputed educational institutions and the industry expert across the globe in this kind of situation where to share the knowledge between different like communities or stakeholders. At Aided Learning Series, we conduct webinars, conclaves, panel discussions, and various other forms of knowledge sharing uh, and expertise accessible to all the stakeholders on the concept of knowledge to everyone across the globe. This particular session is presented by AAD, collaborated with Chandigarh Design School, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, PTC, Lucid Designs, and Lotusutra, supported by Middle East College, Obriol, Global Observatory, Smart Knowledge Alliances, Diesel, and MESC. And about today's topic of Aided Learning Edition 6 of Designing Humane Engineering Solutions, it's about how design is evolved. So from a situation where it's only for selling a product or a brand to completely to a different level of design approach where use of technology in it, considering visual and screen engagement of modern days, the idea of design has expanded to creating immersive experience for all the users. But there is a very thin line gap between this engaging and addictive screen designs. With this widespread concern of increasing the screen addicts and screen junkies, an aspect of ethical designing is coming into foray. So today our discussion is about how design can be balanced between an addiction to a positive use of it. So we have our eminent panelists here who are from both industry and from the academicians who will be sharing their views on this particular topic in our discussion today. So let me introduce the panelists of the day. Let me start with Mr. Amit Mirchandani, Managing and Creative Director of Lucid Design India Private Limited. He's an alumni of California College of Art, San Francisco, and he started Lucid in 2006. It's a design company which started in US in 2006. And Amit's works includes designs and strategies from companies such as Incase, Plantronics, Infinity, Bushnell, Bolle, Reef, Mark Levinson, Ernie Ball, and etc. So on. Amit's work has been showcased in the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and the New York International Contemporary Furniture Fair. His work has been published in Time, Architectural Digest, the New Yorker, Rolling Stone, the Los Angeles Times, San Francisco Chronicle, Product Design Now, and Young Designers America. He even received many awards from Red Dot, MWIS, Foxglove, Metropolis, to name like that. There are many more. Welcome, Mr. Amit Mirchandani.
Thank you, Bhaskar, for the introduction.
Next, we have Mr. Suresh Perinjery from Partner Technical Manager from PTC India. He has over 16 years of experience with PTC, driving partner businesses, partner coaching, and technical advisor. He is a veteran of Indian Air Force as an aeronautical engineer for 6 years. Next, we have Dr. Urmi Ravindra Salve, Assistant Professor of Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. She is a PhD holder on human factors and ergonomics from the University of Calcutta. She has over 10 years of research experience in the fields of ergonomics and human factors engineering in different research bodies. She completed many industry level ergonomic evaluations and intervention using cutting edge outcome measures. She has more than 22 full study and abstract publications on the top level Indian and international journals and conference proceedings. Her main areas of work are into human factor engineering, occupational and cognitive ergonomics, and research methodology.
Hello.
Welcome, Dr. Selve. And last, we have Mr. Pankaj Sehjowalia, founder director of Lotusutra and academic head of Chandigarh Design School. He won the International DC-DC Challenge at IDC, IIT Bombay for wellness board and card game designs, which he created during the lockdown period, along with Alia Studio. He has a master degree in strategic design management from National Institute of Design and Ahmedabad, India. He has over 15 years of experience to lead the design teams in enhancing the experience and customer-centric design for international brands such as Vespa, Japan, Canon Japan, and Andros US, etc. He's an artist by passion. He does wonderful spiritual mandala art in his free time. Welcome, Mr. Pankaj Sehjowalia.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhaskar.
So, without further ado, we'll start the today's session, the today's discussion with the first question. Before that, to all the participants who are there, who wants to ask any question in between the discussion, please feel free to ask. So, I'll be posting the question to the presenters or the panelists. But please put it in the Q&A session so that I can guide it to the particular panelist. So my first question about the topic, today's topic, is a common question for all the participants here, all the presenters here. The question is, what is human design according to you? Because that is the topic that we are discussing today, human designing according to you. Is it designing for humans or designing like a human in your perspective? Because when we say like a human, humans has emotions, human has different perspectives, which plays an important role. So the design according to you, what it is. So I want to know about it, like maybe in detail from your side, in your area of expertise, because we have different people from different expertise. So I want to start with Dr. Salve. So if you can share your views on it.
Thank you, Bhaskar, for the beginning. Yeah, so human design, we take it in our field as when we are designing anything which is considering all the human related issues. Okay, it's considers your starting from your physical dimension matching to your perception, to your context, no, the cultural behavior, all any related topic which is connected to human and which can influence the interaction between the product and the human being, definitely I will be considering those things as the human design. Okay, so product, I don't mean that only the tangible product, it may be intangible, whatever we are designing ultimately at the end of our end, when we complete our designing process, when whatever is our outcome, it should be connected to human. And because ultimately the human is the person, or like who that the end user, right? So when we are considering all these human related issues, okay, so according to our research domain, I take care of those issues and I'll be calling it as human design. So human factors to be considered. Yeah, that is from my perspective. Yeah. Bhaskar, I
I'm sorry.
cannot
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
you.
Sorry. Thanks, Dr. Selvi. Next, I want to hear from Mr. Pankaj Sehjowalia. Can you share your views on it?
Right. Coming from a design background and also from a technical background, and somehow this year really transformed the way we used to think about human-centric design. So at least for me, because I this year, there was a reflection and contemplation during the lockdown time when we had to think beyond this word, which we call as human-centric design. So human as a word. So what I understood, and what even my our design team understood during lockdown, was that human and environment, so it's basically self and environment combines together to create what we are as humans. So even when we design humans, anything which is related to us as a human species, we have to consider on a macro level that how that design is also going to benefit in some way to mother nature, and also to any being, any entity which exists on this earth. So that lead to I can give this example because the game which I have designed is basically to cater to this, that one is definitely human centric, and we should also include nature as part of, and our environment as part of human centric design. Beyond that, as we know that the more we are aware of our existence, and the more exposure we have, that will remove our limitations. That most of the time what happens that design takes care of form and function, right? And at times what we call as knowledge even lacks wisdom to a point that we miss out on factors which are very essential. So for me, human-centric design would always be something that would start with the research at a macro level, and then narrowing down and focusing back to what we call as a need or requirement. That's all from me.
Thanks, Mr. Sehjowalia. Next, we want to hear from Mr. Amit. Your perspective of what is this human-centric design? You are from a product design and UI design.
Yeah, thanks, Bhaskar. So when we talk about humane design, humane actually goes beyond just humans. And as Mr. Pankaj said, it applies to all living things. So you need to consider that when you're designing, so that it's actually a harmonious and there's a balance across all living beings. There are obviously some critical aspects to consider, which is generally just the thoughtfulness of the design, the inclusiveness of the design, the how respectful it is to who's using it. Um, how respectful it is to the environment as well, because it has to come from the environment and ultimately has to go back to the environment. If you're using materials, we also have to think about how transparent it is, whether it's got ulterior motives, or it's trying to lead you down a path that's ultimately not the best for either you or the planet. So there's many aspects to consider when we talk about humane design, and the idea is to try and find the balance that is the most natural, the most harmonious, and the one where there's no winners and losers in any of that. So the design is justified for being there, and the people who are using it because they want to use it, and not because they're being forced to use it, or they're being coerced into using it in an unhealthy way. Uh, so that balance is what humane design is all about.
Thanks, Mr. Amit. Next, Mr. Suresh Perinjery, can you share your views on this?
Yeah. So being from a technology company, my views is that both points are right based on the application, whether it is designing for humans or it should be human by design. So the technologies which we offer is basically helping human beings to do what they do now in a much better way. So if somebody is changing a flat tire of a car, the way he was doing earlier by understanding from some written catalogs, etc., and taking a lot of time to understand the way it has been written, can I make it much simpler for him to have a very visual, on the context, physical instructions so that he understands it better and does it with ease, with less error? If it is a factory worker, if it is a educationist, teaching or working something, can I improve his productivity in such a way that he has got enough time to be innovative, to do things better? So from my point of view, the design should be in such a way that it accentuates, it helps to increase the productivity of the human being, to increase the comfort of the human being in whatever context he is doing that, in whatever job he is doing that. And of course, there are certain other applications where we need to consider that it should be human. So in that aspect, I feel that the whatever design we do, it should help the human beings, but it should not overpower the human beings. It should not be in a way that it should manipulate the human beings. It should not be in a way that it will control the human beings. And that's what we see in the social media, and we're so afraid of our children getting addicted to social media, etc., because a lot of technologies are there, and it's a lot of wow factors are there, and which leads to so many dangerous outcomes. So from a company which makes technologies, which we will further discuss, uh, I feel that both points are right. So, but we are involved mostly for designing for human beings, to make him comfortable and do what he's best at, and do something more, come out of the comfort zone what he has been doing, because he has got all the tools, everything for his work, which otherwise would not have been possible. I can also give, I'm just relating to the Western countries, and India, where manpower is there so much that we don't do many things ourselves, starting from plumbing to electrical to small repairs. We don't do ourselves. We get people to do that. But in Western countries, since things have been made so plug and play kind of things, the designs have been made in such a way that it's easy to assemble and make it up. People mostly do it themselves, even though there is a factor that service is very costly, and that's why I have to do. But still, when if I have to do, it has to be made very simple for me and very easy to use. So I think both points are right based on the applications on which we are trying to give it for the human beings.
Thanks, Mr. Perinjery. I think all the views are bringing us to a very common point that it's all should be human centric in the end. That's how it has to be. That means we should not uh, do anything that will harm either nature or humans. any design for that matter. It's not the topic about just uh, the phones or mobile phones or screens or anything, any product for that matter. That's what it's all coming to in the end. And when you're saying about whatever designs that are spoiling the students, I mean, the screen designs or whatever that is maybe empowering or maybe overpowering the students thing, how the kids are using it. So that comes to a question for Mr. Pankaj Sehjowalia. So I have a question for you on this. Uh, this is about the wellness game that you created, the wellness app or the game that you created for the kids, right? So how you made sure, like, since it is again an app which is connected to a screen, how you made sure it is not addictable to any of the kids or students? What are the different things that you kept in mind when you're doing it?
Right. This particular game, right now, it's a conventional game and it's a board and card game. So it's not right now in any application. And see, the inception of wellness in my life started 10 years back. So that was the time when I, completed my masters from NID Ahmedabad, and somewhere, because I did my masters, and among our, friend circle, we used to discuss that why our health is getting affected, and all of us have, are from different states in India, and somehow we are unable to manage our health. So is it the food? Is it our food habits? So that's how, from those discussions, that there were questions that we had, and somewhere we were curious that how our health is getting affected, though we are so young. We were in our mid 20s. So so from there, because I had to do my dissertation project, so I got sponsorship from Ford Foundation way back, and so I worked and I did research, ground level research, to understand that how we can improve a health index of youth as well as of adults. And so those questions helped me to get to dive deep into the the understanding why our habits have become unhealthy. Is it because of convenience? Is it because of more options of fast food, more options of packaged food? So based on the research which I did 10 years back, so we as a team at Lotusutra started developing games. So this game, that this version of game which we have developed this year takes care of the issues like WHO and any Ministry of Health, like in India also. They have these guidelines that we have to wear a mask, we need to have social distancing. So this has come into picture, as a preventive measure to fight against COVID-19, right? To avoid a particular, virus. So, but on the other side, if we look at our ancient, medicines, so in our Ayurvedas, we always talked about preventive cure, right? So for prevention, what do we have? We can definitely work on our food habits. So the game which I have designed um, practically teaches yoga. So all the players, so children in the family and the family members, when they play the game, they perform yogasanas, and they also encourage each other. So it's not a competition, it's a healthy competition. So they encourage and they also correct the postures of each other when one player is performing that particular asana. On the other hand, the game also has cards which gives them power through fruits and vegetables. So they understand why a particular fruit is important and what nutrients are going to help that person. So if there are nutrients like vitamin C, and at a certain value, having that particular card, the player is able to avoid a particular disease, right? So these permutation combinations are there in the game, and that makes the game special because through learning they are becoming aware, and through practical performance of yoga they are learning asanas. So that is the that's how the game play is. And so for me, especially when I look at the other side, when we talk about the effects of such like the pandemic COVID-19, So it becomes all the more important to come up with a solution that help the masses. So this game has come into existence so that different age groups, from children to youth to the elderly people, can benefit from this game. So this was already there. All the information was there in our ancient text and in our Vedas. So we have developed this game with our research team, which consulted Ayurvedas, naturopathy, right? So we have included these disciplines to create the game, right, sir?
Okay. So it's more like you are balancing it with because we are not stopping them from seeing the phone or something else, but we are balancing it with some other even wellness things that we are giving back to them.
Right. And intentionally, I did not get into digital platforms. So I thought there should be something where you take a break from all the digital, mobile phones and laptops and computers and physically play the game. So that's why this is still a traditional game, so that we connect with our roots, that how we used to interact with each other. Because what we see is that even a family would sit with their mobile phones and with their digital companions, right? So that interaction I wanted to bring back, which we had as small children.
Thank you.
So with that, I would actually take a leave because I have, there's another webinar that I have to attend. It was lovely meeting all of you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Mr. Sehjowalia. Yeah. So to continue with, I have question to Mr. Mirchandani. So this is regarding the differences since you are into a product design and even into UI UX design. So my question is about what is the difference that you see generally between physical and digital design? If you can, with some examples that you can explain how this design approaches that you follow between these two to make it more human centric, either if it is a product or if it is a software product.
So obviously, as time goes on, the line between physical and digital is becoming narrower and narrower. So, 25 years ago when I was in college, the disciplines were very, very different. And you were primarily focused on how to manufacture something if you were studying product design, how to work with materials to create an enclosure for something, or to create a product that would benefit somebody in some way, right? Then in the the late 90s and the early 2000s, we obviously saw a lot more things happening around digital. And as you can probably you're very familiar with, say, even the iPhone journey. When the first iPhone came out, everyone was very excited about the design of the iPhone, just as much as they were interested in what was going on in the screen. But now, as mass market adoption of an iPhone has become like commonplace, and we've had the iPhone for over 10 years now. People focus much less on the design of the device, which even Apple acknowledges, because they don't change the design of the device too much. It's always an incremental change, because they're very aware of the fact that most of your attention is going to what you see on the screen, the experience that can be delivered from the screen. So I would say the line between physical and digital is blurring rapidly, which is something that even we've done in our studio, which is we've become multidisciplinary designers rather than product designers and graphic designers, or more recently user experience designers. All of that is now blended into a holistic design approach. The holistic design approach gives us one methodology to approach any kind of design, right? And in that methodology, we always consider, who the user is, what is the competitive landscape around this product or experience look like. How do we elevate the experience? How do we also consider obviously the humane aspects of it. How can we make deliver the experience of the product or the interface in such a way that it people see better value out of it. They get a better experience, but none of those negative impacts are highlighted. Which is like an unhealthy relationship with the device or the experience, or um, an ill-conceived connection with nature, right? Because as you can see, obviously we've designed ourselves into a kind of tricky situation with regards to the planet. We are in, the cusp of a climate disaster, and we have to make very rapid moves now in order to prevent total disaster. Okay, we're already seeing very, examples of this disaster brewing around us. Just today there's a cyclone hitting Chennai and the eastern southern coast. These things, everyone will agree, are becoming more frequent. So this uncertainty, and of course we're also living in the middle of a pandemic, is going to become more frequent, right? So we have to pay even more attention when we design things, to create things that are more in harmony with the natural order of things. And I would say that product, digital, all of that is blending into one type of multidisciplinary design.
Thank you. Yeah. And my next question is for Dr. Salve. So when we are talking about this products or designs, like you come into place wherein the ergonomics, the way we that helps a human being, right? So according to this, like what needs to be taken into consideration, because nowadays everything is on screens. When you're designing a screen, what needs to be considered, and that too in the kind of situation right now what we are in, the kind of screen usage is more because of the situation pandemic, and people or the students are into online studies and all. So what are the things that we need to keep in mind while designing the screens?
Okay, very relevant question basically. So when we are talking about um, like ergonomics, what ergonomics is basically, like, if you look at the very basic definition of ergonomics, it says, doing some work which follows the natural law of doing that job. Okay, so that is the basic definition of ergonomics. Okay, so whenever we are talking about screen design, basically, earlier days, it lot of graphic designer and many basically visual communication designer, they are involved in this particular field. Okay, so as far as the ergonomics is concerned, when we are talking about screen design, a lot of standards available and guidelines available, which talks about visual ergonomics. Okay, so how visual cones are, how the lighting, not only the screen lighting, around the environmental lighting, what kind of fonts these are, and how that is impacting on your ocular health. Okay, so all these aspects we need to really consider, along with definitely the size, position, which connected with your anthropometric variables. Anthropometric means your body dimension. Okay, because when I'm talking about, I'm holding my laptop on my lap, or I am keeping my laptop on my table, how that is influencing your visual angle, how it is connected to your neck position. Because when we are looking at screens, how frequently I am looking at which objects. So grouping, like when we are talking about screen designing, a lot of informations are coming on the screen. So how I am grouping them, how I am, so here a lot of cognitive aspects. Okay, So these are the concepts we should take care when we are talking about the screen design. So as you know, we are going lot of digital era, like lot of everywhere. It's not only education field, in many different industries also everything is digital things we are using. So handheld devices we are using. So how the information is getting displayed, so control and display, how these are connected. So mainly the cognitive aspect we need to take care in the beginning. Slow then how those cognitive aspect is influencing on your physical health, physical adaptation. So that also we need to take care. So these are the area when we are designing we should take care of as far as the digital screens are concerned. Yeah. So there are guidelines, of course, but giving a context specification, we need to research on, and we have to develop our own database to design that particular aspect. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Sylvie. So it means like it's both. Like we need to evaluate on both the software part and even the hardware part of it, not just one. Which
Uh, of course, software, hardware. Right now, what I'm talking about, how the screens are looking. Suppose I'm using a color. So, what is the influence of those colors on human? Okay, how I'm recognizing those color. Now, I'm using some kind of gridding system on my screen, like where my chat box will be, where my where is the list of parties. And now taking example of Zoom, right, where how should I find out how to upload my presentation? If it is not user friendly, I will take a little time to do that particular job. Now when ergonomics is concerned, ergonomics talks mainly about the productivity, like with a certain input, you what is your output. So when we are talking all these things, definitely these how user friendly we are making it, how fluently I am using my screen, that is the kind of aspect we should take care. And I will be researching if we consider screen design from ergonomics perspective.
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we're talking about productivity, this question is to Mr. Perinjery. So your products are mainly about like the AR products and all what we are discussing about. It is mainly into increasing the productivity of humans using the devices or whichever way it is, right? So on this, like regarding this, with this immersive experience of AR that we are using through the AR, how this is going to help the human beings in which all ways?
Okay. So first of all, let me explain in a sentence what is AR. So AR is augmented reality, which is a set of technologies that superimposes the digital data, images, and all the control options onto the human's view of a physical world. That is what is augmented reality. And maybe most of them may be familiar with virtual reality. So the difference between VR and AR is that VR is totally virtual and AR is digital in the physical context. So what Amit has said, the line between digital and physical is now getting, almost eliminated. So we say in a different way, we say that it's AR helps in the physical and digital convergence. Why? Because, so let me explain to you. See, at the core, augmented reality grows out of the way humans process the information. So we all know that we access information through our five senses, but at different rates. And vision provides us with the most information by far. Almost 80% to 90% of the information humans get is accessed through vision. So the ability to absorb and process this information which is getting is limited to our mental capacity. And the demand on this capacity is often referred to as cognitive load. So every mental task we undertake reduces the capacity available for other simultaneous tasks. So you cannot do things simultaneously. Even though we say multitasking, but our concentration towards one task is more than the other task. So consider what happens when someone refers to a smartphone for directions while driving. So the driver must consume, first of all, the information from the screen, retain that information in his working memory, then translate the directions into the physical environment which is in front of him, which is fast moving, and then act on those directions, all the while operating the vehicle. So there is significant cognitive distance between the digital information on the screen and the physical context in which the information is applied. So dealing with this distance, this gap, creates more cognitive load. And with the combination of speed at which the information is transmitted and absorbed, the cognitive distance involved in applying it lies at the root of the much repeated phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So when we look at a physical world, we absorb a huge amount and variety of information almost instantaneously. By the same token, an image or picture that superimposes information on the physical world, placing it in context for us, reduces that cognitive distance and minimizes the cognitive load. So this explains why augmented reality or AR is so powerful. There is no better graphical user interface than the physical world we see around us when it is enhanced by a digital overlay of the relevant data and guidance where and when they are needed. So in this case, instead of the driver looking at the Google map on his mobile phone and then trying to relate it and then trying to project it onto the physical world, we are talking about augmented reality navigation directly as a head-up display in front of him onto his windscreen. And it clearly tells him that he has to go through this way and what is the distance, what is the speed with he's traveling, and it keeps continuously updating and gives him information right in front of his eyes. So he doesn't have to, look at somewhere else, understand that, and then try to apply in the physical context. He is looking into the physical context, but all the information is available in a way he understands better, just like a picture is just in front of him. So that's why we say that immersive experience like AR are helping human beings. This is one of the examples which I have given, how AR is helping. Maybe in further topics, we will discuss how this will help human beings in other fields as well.
Yeah, my next question comes to the same actually for you again. Like what other areas where we can actually use it in a more productive way
Okay,
in the different industries?
right. Yeah, thanks for the question because that will maintain the continuity.
Yeah.
So since we are working with, in the field of product development, we help companies to develop their products starting from concept till the time it is, service till the end of its life. So first application is in the field of product development itself. So engineers have been using this computer aided design capabilities to create 3D models for over 30 years. But they have been limited to interact with these models through 2D windows on their computer. The computer is not a 3D window, it's a 2D window, which makes it harder for them to fully conceptualize the design. A designer who makes the concept, there are a lot of people downstream who consume that design. Say, for example, somebody who does the testing of it, somebody who makes the tool around that, somebody who manufactures it. So for them to fully conceptualize what the original designer meant, it's very difficult to understand through a 2D printed drawing or information or even through a 2D screen. So what AR allows here is to superimpose those 3D models on the physical world as holograms, thus enhancing the engineer's ability to evaluate and improve design. So same design which is done in a 3D CAD design is made available in the physical context through easy to use devices like mobile or iPad, on the physical context so that he can appreciate just like he's seeing it in the physical world. Second field is manufacturing. In manufacturing, processes are very, very complex and it requires hundreds or even thousands of steps. And the mistakes, if they commit, are very costly. So, what augmented reality does is that in the manufacturing shop floor, it will deliver just the right information the moment it's needed to the factory workers, maybe on assembly lines or welding plants, etc., thus reducing errors, enhancing efficiency, and improving productivity. Another field is logistics. Here, warehouse operations are estimated to account for about 20% of all the logistics costs. So, like for example, picking items from the shelves represents up to 65% of the warehouse costs. In most of the warehouses, the workers still perform this task by consulting a paper list of things to collect and then searching for them. This method is slow and error prone. If you take DHL, which is a logistics giant, and a growing number of other companies, they are using augmented reality or AR to enhance the efficiency and accuracy of the picking process. The instructions given through AR is directing the worker to the location exactly of each product to be pulled, and then it will also suggest the best route to the next product. And because of this implementation of AR, DHL has claimed that it has led to fewer errors, more engaged workers, and productivity gains of 25%. The next two fields are marketing and sales and after sales service. In marketing and sales, AR is totally redefining the concept of showrooms and product demonstrations, and it is making the customer experience totally transforming. When customers see virtually how products will look or function in a real setting before buying them, they have more accurate expectations, more confidence about their purchase decisions, and greater product satisfaction. Just by looking from a product catalog, he has to depend on his imagination. But the same product in the same real life size, if he's able to see virtually in the same in the showroom, in the physical context, he's able to make better decisions. And because of this, down the road, AR may even reduce the need for brick and mortar stores and showrooms altogether. In after sales service, there is a big potential, huge potential to unlock the value, creating capabilities of what we call it as smart connected products. So AR assists technicians serving customers in the field very much in the way it helps workers in the factory. It shows predictive analytics data generated by the product. So a lot of data is collected and it is analyzed, synthesized, orchestrated, and it shows that if something is happening, what will happen in the future. It will predict so that the person who is going to service is already geared with the solution. And also along with that, he is visually guided through all the repairs which has to be done in real time, and also connecting him or her with the remote experts who can also help optimizing the procedures. So in brief, in after sales service, for marketing and sales, logistics, manufacturing, and product development, for a discrete manufacturing company which makes products, AR is helping the human workforce in the industry.
Thank you. Thanks for that information that we got about AR and how we can use it in conjunction with design, how we can put it forward together and how we can take it forward. Now, my next question is for Mr. Mirchandani. So, this is like about again the human design, what we are talking about. So are we going in the right direction? Because as a humans we are evolving. We started from somewhere where we started designing things, and then at some point of time we felt maybe design is the same design what we created is creating some maybe a disturbance or problems to us, and then again we started correcting ourselves. Now we saying something called as human design, which is towards, are we doing the right thing now? Is it right time to do this?
So um, I think the level of awareness about what we are doing and how we're doing it has never been higher than previously. which is a good thing because earlier we didn't have enough information to ask the right questions. We were, stumbling upon new technologies, and we were pushing ahead with great enthusiasm because that new technology was opening up different ways of living and different capabilities that we were getting, and we were so enamored by it that we went ahead with it without understanding the repercussions of it, right? Like moving into the industrial age or moving into the computer age, or moving into what nowadays we are moving into an age of greater realization, right? Because uh, lots of these things have now hit a tipping point where we have no choice but to we have to stop and take stock of what all we've already created and what impact it's already had on us. So when we talk about humane design in that context, never have we had greater awareness in order to be able to do the right thing. However, businesses are still driven by bottom lines and financial targets and things like that. The way a business is structured, obviously there are shareholders in the business. Shareholders have expectations on certain returns, and so the business has to press ahead in order to meet those returns, even if it's doing something slightly um, inhumane, right? If I can say that. I don't mean that they're like killing people or anything like that. Or indirectly they may be. I mean, you may have a company that's thinks it's doing the right thing, but it has a tremendous impact in some other part of the world, which is actually leading to lives being lost or something to that effect. These things are happening, right? But never ever has it been the accountability and the scrutiny and the awareness has never been better. So it's actually a good time to stop and evaluate everything that we're doing. Also, we've never had tools like we've had before, right? So even with as Mr. Suresh was saying about AR and enhancing productivity. We have the capability now of building things and visualizing things faster than we've ever done it before. So now is really the time to stop and ask yourself, are we doing the right thing? Are we pressing ahead blindly and destroying our habitat and destroying the environment for other creatures that live here as well? Or is it genuinely helping humanity achieve their full potential? Ultimately, what were the goals for all of these things, right? We talked about. I mean, people have over the years talked about leading greater automation, greater enhancement in the the physical world was supposed to lead to a life of more comfort and more leisure, but nobody has done that, right? All this automation that people talked about in the 1950s and 60s was supposed to create more free time for humans. But what did we do as humans? We went and filled up that free time with more work, right? So here we are. We are a human race that wants to keep running, that will not slow down, that wants to press ahead, not fully aware of the consequences of what we're doing. We are enamored by new technologies, so we are happily, absorbing them because they're so life changing. We don't even understand the repercussions of what they might do to us 10 years from now. But at the same time, like I said, we have never been more aware of who we are and what we're doing, and harder questions have never been asked before. So this is really the time when all of that stuff starts to get answered as to whether we are doing the right thing, whether we're pressing ahead with the right motivations. I think one thing we can definitely do is start organizing and ordering what it means to be, doing humane design, right? And there are actually there's a website out there called humanebydesign.com, which has, like about 6 or 7 tenets, which are, the important points to follow when approaching any kind of design. And they're very inclusive, and they're very holistic. So I recommend that every designer look at these points whenever they're working on something. They ensure that it's compliant with these points, and your design will automatically be better if it satisfies these requirements. So I think that is one thing that definitely needs to happen, which is, if we are to move into a future where we actually do have a more comfortable life, where we have a life that's with greater harmony with the environment, where the motivation behind all the products that we use is a better and more harmonious one for us and the planet, then I think we'll be moving in the right direction. And that is something that needs to happen.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's what you have. And when you are saying about more into human, I have that. I mean, the human and the laws of the human website that you're talking about. I have some questions on it, which comes next, which
Oh, okay.
shall be. Uh, and this question is for Dr. Salve. Uh, See, when he's talking about when Mr. Mirchandani is talking about automation of things which are happening, so then comes there is this industry 4.0 where everything will be automated, right? Like, but when everything is automated, like how humane we are making it? Is it really the human, or we are taking everything out of the design? When the design is taking everything out of the humans.
Actually, this is a kind of challenge we have. Like right now, if you look at Industry 4.0, the concept is everything will be remotely controlled, right? So if you're talking about loading, unloading, delivery to the machine, input to the machine, output from the machine, whatever is there. So the whole, even connecting 2-3 manufacturing unit, everything is through either Wi-Fi or IoT, or all these sort of technologies, right? Even AR, VR, these are all the uh, big database, and all these things are there, which we are using for uh, Industry 4.0. And the concept is, as it's all automated by nomenclature, as it is automated, we expect that human is not there. But if you look at the kind of implementation right now is happening, yes, of course, it is upgradation, but it's not the excluding the human being. The kind of role they used to have in earlier setup, like in the current generation of industry, and the upcoming, that is Industry 4. I don't say upcoming, but definitely in the Indian context, it is not fully implemented still. So in those cases, the role is changing, where earlier one worker used to do manual loading and unloading. Here, he or she will be guiding the robots to do that. So definitely there is an involvement of human being, but the kind of ratio will be changing, and the expertise, the knowledge, that is different, right? So when like we are in association with some manufacturing, or automobile manufacturing, where slowly Industry 4.0 is getting implemented. We do understand the kind of training is required for the manpower. Okay, so the training is required, and slowly the knowledge base will change, and which will help this particular transformation. So human is not getting excluded from the whole setup. Of course, there are changes in the role. Okay, So it's very important to, like, people are very scared. No, we have so much of manpower. We if you look at Indian context, no, manpower is very easily available. If you lot of population, like population is very high, so there will be unemployment. I don't look at it like in this way. Definitely there will be change in the role, and people will they change the knowledge. Okay, so that is the important thing we should take care, and training is a big component when we are talking about this particular transformation, because right now everything we are physically checking, okay, this is finished or not. But now what we have to do, it is remotely understanding that thing, okay, and taking the decision. So this decision making cognition is going to be very important factor in industry 4.0 era. Okay, so these are the things we are looking at. And of course in implementation of industry 4.0 is a big challenge now, and ergonomics is going to play, and even like a lot of design issues will be coming, and we are facing right now, and that is going to work on. Yes.
Thank you. And now question again is back on AR to Mr. Perinjery. So this is regarding the current scenario of the online learning. Is like how this AR can help students in the situation right now.
Yeah. So in fact, I don't know whether it's positive or negative. COVID-19 situation has helped companies like us who sell such technologies like AR and IoT, and also companies. Am I
Sorry to
audible?
interrupt you. Sorry, can you switch on your video? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that in this COVID-19 period, companies who have already adopted AR and IoT technologies and companies like us has really benefited in this situation. Those who had these technologies adopted had their business continuity. Now, when it comes to students and academics, just like Zoom technology and other technologies helping for online, teaching, there was um, a news which came from a Kerala government school where the teacher is teaching the students of lower classes about animals. Now, how do you think in an online class, either she can play some presentation which shows the pictures of those animals and teach, and she's not there physically available to articulate, right? How does a tiger look like, or how does an elephant look like? Fortunately, one of the budding entrepreneurs, like one of our partners, he created an augmented reality experience. So when the teacher is digitally teaching a tiger, the tiger is standing next to her. The complete augmented reality version of tiger in the full size is standing next to her. She is explaining the tiger, walking around that, going near that, and all those things. So the children sitting in the at home and looking at what she's teaching, for them it is very easy to understand. So same goes with, maybe if I take a mechanical engineering as an example, if I have to teach how does a differential work, which is there at the back of all trucks and vehicles, at the rear wheel side, AR with its actual animation of the differential in the physical context, I can go and stand near a vehicle and then a digital superimposition over the physical differential, with that being a cut model and showing how does it operate in the AR, because AR superimposes digital instructions on top of that, is very easily understandable by the students who are sitting on the other side, totally remote on a virtual platform. Similarly, if it is, since we are all talking about AR, of course, same goes with design. If you design something, how do you collaborate with your team? How do you share and do a design review with somebody else who is at remote? AR enables them to share that design in a very simple and lightweight way with a simple device like a mobile. They can actually look at a mobile and superimpose it in the physical context, and the design which has been created can be appreciated by the person at the other end wherever he is. He just requires a internet connectivity, that too not a big broadband, and he will be able to appreciate that design, and he will be able to collaboratively review it also, interact. So in this situation, in academics, uh, just like it has almost replaced the way you would otherwise explain to your students in the physical environment, it has done a lot of justice using this AR technology in this situation. So that's how it will help mainly students.
Okay. Yeah. And to add to this, like there is even something like the virtual labs and all, which are coming into place for all this students who are learning remote nowadays. So they can do a physical lab using those.
Yes, so you see, already Birla Institute of Technology, BITS, Pirani, Hyderabad campus, which runs a work integrated learning program. It is 100% virtual. It's for people like us who are from the industry. They have labs set up in their in premises, but those labs we interact virtually. So they have implemented Internet of Things and augmented reality, because the people who are interacting virtually can appreciate. Say, for example, they've done a water bottling plant, automation of a water bottling plant. Now, how do we do that? How do we appreciate all those process, etc. virtually, totally virtually? They are doing it with augmented reality. So it really helps people who are doing it in virtually to get that real physical feeling. It's like, if I ask a mechanic, um, are you fully satisfied with this virtual superimposition of physical thing? Then that human factor comes. He may say, sir, I will not get the feel of that, you know, component. He will not get a human feel, but rest everything he will get. So it will not totally replace that human feel, but in such situations, it helps you a lot than sharing information with the traditional means, instead of doing it with the AR means.
Okay. Thank you. And yeah, the next question is to Mr. Mirchandani. So this is regarding the designs that we are making, like when we're talking about the app designs or whatever. So it's more about fear of missing out, like all this revenue generation that is happening is all on the fear of missing out from the apps.
Yeah.
So why the companies, like some companies, I'm not naming all, like some companies are creating these kind of things, like is there something that is stopping them from creating a real good product or a human product, which helps the humans? Or like if you can share some things, like maybe some suggestions for these kind of people, like if they have to change some uh, pipeline changes or the way they think about the process, which can help them.
Yeah, it's a good question. So fundamentally, the companies that create apps that lead to this kind of addiction and this sort of fear of missing out, as you're describing, um, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of psychology at play, right? So it's quite easy to understand the trigger reward pathways in anyone's mental makeup, and it's very easy to give them what they need just when they need it in order to continue, right? So the fundamental problem is that these companies ultimately they become so large that they become like public companies. They have a whole bunch of investors who are expecting big returns on their investment. So they drive the companies to push for greater and greater valuations. And how are they doing that? They have to generate revenue, right? And if you're designing an app, then your revenue is entirely generated by either advertising or subscription service or something that you've got your user to do, right? Now the user is always going to prefer a free service to a subscription service. Obviously, because they don't want to spend the money upfront. But what they don't realize is that they're investing a whole bunch of time if they don't pay the money, right? Because then what you're doing is you're making yourself as a user become fair game to that company to give you as much advertising and waste your time with advertising as much as they want, right? So you don't realize it, but you're actually by paying, whatever 100 rupees a month or 200 rupees a month is actually far more effective than letting the company give you that service for free, but then they can push as much advertising towards you. Now their goal is to keep you on the platform, because the more you are on the platform, the more advertising you can consume. The more advertising you consume, that means more revenue is generated for them. And that revenue directly goes into their bottom line, which directly makes the shareholders happy. And that raises more investment for the company. So it's a unfortunate cycle, but we, by consuming advertising, are pushing these companies up and getting them to give us more addictive methodologies to keep us trapped on the apps for longer and longer. So how do we break out of that? Obviously, if we switch to humane, methodologies, you're going to get onto a social platform, you're going to engage with it for 5 minutes, and then you're going to put it away. That doesn't necessarily generate money for that social company, right? They need you to be on there for half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours a day, right? So is there a different methodology for delivering services? Now, one thing we can do is all these social companies can agree that we are not going to do this, free model that's fully backed by advertising. That we're going to offer a premium model, but we're going to price it very cheaply so that everyone has to subscribe in order to engage with the platform. Then if you're subscribing and you're not looking at advertising, your actual time on the app becomes far lower. Okay, and that would be actually a more humane experience. However, like I said, we are equally to blame. We don't want to pay for things. And when we don't want to pay for things, we become fair game for these social media companies to push advertising on us. And it's their interest to keep us on the app as long as possible so that they can push more advertising towards us. So unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle.
Yes. So to the last question of today's, like, which brings, like, whatever thoughts what you just shared, which brings us to a thing like, are there any rules or regulatory bodies which govern these things? Like, it has to be strictly like when you said about human, which has some guidelines, but do you have any strict rules um, about regulating this thing overall, the human behavior?
Unfortunately, there is no regulatory body. There's just standards for content bodies. So obviously, if something is highly offensive, then the it can obviously trigger a warning at the regulatory body, and that can impose something onto that particular platform. But other than content, there is no body that monitors the psychological subversive nature of social media and how it connects with the end user. Until now, it's largely been left up to social media platforms to self-regulate. Now, even if these guys want to do the right thing at the social media platforms, they are driven ultimately by uh, financial gains. They have to deliver results. At the moment they become a public company, they have to deliver results. And this is where the danger is. Now, obviously, you can get all these companies together if one of them was more progressive and they wanted to create a body that brings all the companies together, and then together they make rules for themselves in order to stay on track. Like, for example, like the Paris Climate Accord gets a bunch of countries together and tells them that you set your targets and then stick to your targets. And because you're sticking to your targets, it's not an unfair advantage for another country, right? Because it's very easy to, if you're going to let a free market dictate what an app can do, then those people are going to push it for maximum engagement, right? Because maximum engagement, and if they can get someone to look at the screen for 24 hours a day, that means maximum money for them, right? So how do we create something that allows them to regulate, and then ultimately there needs to be a body that holds them to what they've agreed to regulate, but none of those methodologies are in place. So it's literally social media companies self-regulating, but there's a conflict of interest because their motivation is not humane design, because humane design goes directly opposite from revenue generation presently. So we need a way to set a playing field, because the playing field is wide open right now in the world of digital. It's like do whatever you want, connect with whoever you want, as long as you can get them onto your platform. It's great. It's fair game. So that is unfortunately the situation that we're in. There's actually a very interesting movie about this, a documentary called Social Dilemma. If if to whoever's listening, if you can, I think it's on Netflix. So if you get a chance, please watch that. And it highlights exactly what I'm talking about, which is the conflict of interest between social media companies and the user.
Yeah, I would like to add to that.
Yeah.
Yes, see, one more element to that is the privacy, the data which you collect through this apps, and so fortunately in Europe you have this GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. So same goes with our technology also. We also have tried to. So there are some regulatory bodies in certain pockets which does that. So any data which you collect after the purpose for which it is used, then it should not be used at all. In India, it's opposite the case. Even if that data is not something which we have shared with anybody else, but somebody else uses the data against us. So say for example, in this complete set of augmented reality, we have a solution which is helping remote assistance. So what it does is it's called Vuforia Chalk. It's just like a WhatsApp call, and two people can call with each other, and a person can see what is happening in the physical context through the other person's mobile camera, and then he can guide him by putting chalk marks. He can put chalk marks on the mobile. He sees that object through his other person's mobile, and he can guide instead of simply vocally saying go there, go this, turn that. He can put chalk marks on his mobile, which will be sticking onto that object in that person's mobile also, and it's a easy guidance too. But the problem, the thing which we have to take care is that the data security. So this does not allow to take video of what the person who is sitting at this side is seeing through the mobile camera of the other side. It does not allow you to take photographs. It's just during that session, whatever you do, only that is possible. And because of this high security, Toyota adopted this technology when they faced with this challenge during this COVID-19 period, where their employees, expert employees, had to guide their contract employees during weekends when they went for work and avoided traveling. So such kind of, as Amit said, one is that the companies themselves, come together and make some, humane laws and human regulations, or we need to have such bodies coming up and describing. So some of them are just maturing. People are trying to adopt, trying to understand how it is going to affect us. Paris Climate Accord happened once. A lot of damage has been done to our environment. So people may be in the process of understanding, they are not able to predict what is going to happen in the future. And only once it happens, then suddenly get up and put these kind of regulations. So we need to foresee whatever we design or whatever we create, that how it is going to, affect or effect in 10 years from now or 20 years from now. and then sit together and create all those regulations for that, which should be an agile regulation which keeps changing. So that's my input.
Thanks for the views. I think this discussion can go even more long, like one very interesting topic to talk about. But since we are kind of running out of time, we'll take question and answers from the participants. I think some of the questions are already answered directly here. I think, yeah.
Yeah,
Some
I
of the
have
questions,
answered some of the
yes, some of the
questions.
questions are
Yeah.
already answered. There are some questions wherein one for Dr. Salve. Any human design products for market, ma'am?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I already answered. Yes, we have
Okay.
some products that we already is there. Yeah, already I answered that. Yeah.
Yes. And even for Mr. Mirchandani, it's like any application or UX design, which is also answered. But if you can just give in brief what it is.
Yeah, sure. So UI UX design is essentially you know a subsection of design where people deal with interaction. So it can be physical, but most often it refers to digital interaction. And the goal of the designer in creating any UI UX experience is to try and minimize the amount of interaction to make it as streamlined as possible
Yeah.
so that you're able to find what you're looking for, you're able to accomplish a particular task in the shortest amount of time and with the fewest number of steps or clicks. So you're able to get to what you need to without with a high degree of engagement and with as little frustration as possible.
Yeah. And one more is to Mr. Perinjery. This is about how much time it might take for these things to happen. I think even which is already answered, but if you can just in one line, if you can brief what is the answer for everyone.
Yeah, so I understand that that question is that, AR, adoption of AR, how much time it will happen to become a complete reality. So what I answered is that already companies have adopted. We call them as early innovators in all these fields which I mentioned, marketing and sales, product development, product design, and logistics, and after sales service, etc. Even in FMCG also, you can take the example of, lens cart. You try to buy something online, it takes your facial scanning, and then, you can fit your specs and all see. So that's AR actually. Even Coca-Cola, ATMs also have adopted, ATM manufacturers. But in India, we are a bit slow, mainly because we are very cost conscious. And, as Amit rightly said, we are very cost conscious. We have to be, with an attitude of, appreciating the value than the cost. And that is also undergoing a change. The youngsters are much better than, the previous generation. They understand the value and they go for it. So what we envisage is that for a full-fledged adoption of, AR, it may take another 5 years. Maybe by 2025, you will see that, the younger generation, they will be more used to, looking at AR as a digital technology in their day-to-day life.
Okay. So with this, we'll end this session because we're running out of time. I think we answered most of the questions, and even the questions what we have, most of the questions are answered from one single answer that I got from all the panelists here. Thank you all. Thank you for your insightful views that you shared, which helps everyone out there, even the designers or whoever is right now present here as the participants. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for
Bye bye,
having us.
Amit. Bye bye, Urmi.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Bhaskar.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Chaitanya. Bye bye.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, Bhaskar.
Bye. Bye all.
Chaitanya also, are you here? Bye bye. Take care.